One. Well, hello everybody, my Lemonye's, and all of those who are part of the Lemonye Center. I think it's important that you understand the history of the center. A lot of people aren't aware of the history of the center. There are 5 major facts that you need to know about the center. And I'm going to quiz you on this too, so you better get them in your head. The first main fact is that we are named after Dr. Lemonye. Why is that name significant? 2 reasons. Dr. Lemonye was the very first abolitionist, not just here in Western Pennsylvania, but the United States. What is an abolitionist? It's a person who believes against slavery. He was the one helping people to move on to freedom. Second fact about Dr. Lemonye, he created the very first crematory in the USA. He was the 3rd person cremated in his crematory, and it sits here in Washington up on Presby Hill. So we're named after him, and I think that's very significant to be named after a significant name. The second name that is important to us is Robert Forrest. Robert Forrest had a house right where the parking lot is at the Lemonye Center. And he decided to take the kids from all the surrounding areas and bring them together and teach them how to do sports and crafts and art. That was back in the 20s. And most of those kids were African American or poor kids. So when he died in the late 30s, he decided to bequeath his house and his property to the African American community. That's where the name Forrest Avenue comes from. So when you're driving down Forrest Avenue, it came from Robert Forrest. So now we have the house that sat there. And our third piece of history is a lady by the name of Miss Pearl Harris, had a teaching degree. She came up from the South, and they did not recognize it here in the North. But she decided to take the brothers and sisters of the kids who were already in school. These children were 2, 3, 4, and 5 years old. And she taught them school. By the time they matriculated to school, the school was very concerned and said, well, how did you already learn how to read? How did you know how to spell your name? How did you learn this? And they kept saying, Miss Pearl Harris, Miss Pearl Harris. They sought Miss Pearl Harris out, the very person who they denied a teaching job. And her comment was, I just wanted to give them a head start. Hence the word Head Start. Head Start did not become a national word until 1969. Now this incident happened in the 40s and 50s, which means we predated all of Head Start by about 17 years. So I called Washington, D.C. to see who was the start of Head Start. And they said in 1957 in Queens, New York, there was a test pilot. But I have a plaque in my office that is allotting Miss Pearl Harris from 1945 to 1966. So we know that we were the start of Head Start. And inside that piece of history there, I decided to do a full circle, and I didn't know this when I took over the Lemonye Center, that it used to be called Community Action, now they're Blueprints. Well, those kids that started up there with Miss Pearl Harris started their Blueprints. So now we are the mothers of those kids in that program. So we have a huge connection with that. Our next piece of history, which is number 4, 1956 is when the Lemonye Center opened. And that is when Jackie Robinson, the very first African-American baseball player, cut the ribbon along with Branch Rickey, who at the time, Branch Rickey played for, he was the general manager of the Dodgers when Jackie Robinson was with the Dodgers. And they cut the ribbon there in 1956. And during the time when they cut the ribbon there, Branch Rickey was the general manager of the Pirates. Isn't that interesting? So now we have the pirates as a part of our history. I mean, the saga just continues and continues. One of our last piece of history is that where the parking lot is right now, there used to be a swimming pool there. That was the only swimming pool that all of the African American kids could swim in. The next closest swimming pool was in Allegheny County. So Washington County and Allegheny County had a pool. I mean, isn't that sad? Up to about 1969, when we fought so hard to get it to Washington Park. So it's important to understand your history. Well, what brought me into it? Listen, it's not like I really wanted to come up there. I had a great job being Miss Dance Teacher America. I thought that was how I was going to die, as a Dance Teacher America. But God said, no, I got a challenge for you. He gave me a 5-year plan. And when I came up to the Lemonye Center, it had been closed for about 5 years. There was a flood, and then a fire. And the place was devastating. Drug dealers and prostitutes had taken over the place. It didn't even look real. No one believed that the Lemonye Center was ever going to come back. And I met with all the politicians, the senators, mayors, and everyone. They kept saying, they said to me, you know, you're a good dance teacher, Miss Joyce, so you need to maybe stay there. I said, look, you didn't get the call from God. I got the call from God. And so I had to stand through a whole array of people who did not want the Lemonye Center to come back. So those of you, when you walk in those doors, learn to appreciate the center, because the Lemonye Center is here to stay forever and ever. So that's my piece of history about the Lemonye Center. Love you. Stay blessed.